Okay, friends, this is part 2 of 2, looking at the end of Matthew chapter 20, right before Jesus and the disciples and the larger crowd that surround him go into Jerusalem. Now, I'm not going to recap yesterday much, but if you haven't watched yesterday's, you're definitely going to want to do that Bible study before you're a part of this one, because they go together. So, what you'll remember from yesterday is that Jesus predicts his death. And then there's a request that's made. It's probably not the best request to be making at that moment. And then we get into today's reading, which is about another request that's made. So let's read this one, beginning in chapter 20, verse 29. And as they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him. So now you've got not just the 12 and not just the larger group that's following him. He's got a large group following him. Anywhere he goes now, it's not just them, but an even greater crowds following him. And behold, there were 2 blind men sitting by the roadside. And when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, "Lord, have mercy on us." Now, Lord could be a more kind of generic title, just a title of respect. Doesn't mean they're calling him Lord the way that we would call him Lord today. But then they say, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." And that is a more specific title. Son of David, of course, David is the great king in what we call the Old Testament, the great king of the Jews in Jesus' history, the history that they would have looked back to in the day of Jesus. David is the great king that they all revere. It doesn't just mean that he is of the lineage of David. It means son of David here means like the son of David, like the heir of David's throne. It means the Messiah, the anointed one, the chosen king. They're calling him the Messiah, which many people at this point, some at least, have come to believe that he is, but certainly not the masses. So they're crying out with an act of faith here. The crowd rebuked him, telling them to be silent. Maybe because of the title that they're giving him, maybe they're not ready to believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Or maybe it's just because it's 2 blind people who are on the outskirts of society and people think have no business crying out to Jesus. Maybe they feel like it would be inappropriate for anybody to cry out in this moment. We don't know, but we know they silenced them. And then they cried out all the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." Stopping, Jesus called to them. I may be reading too much into this, but this call to them, it invokes the image of him being further off, right? He doesn't immediately walk to them, but he calls out to them. Maybe he stops, maybe he's continuing to walk. He calls out to them. "What do you want me to do for you?" Remember, this is the same question that he asked in the last story, when the mother asked for the sons to sit on the right and the left. Same thing. What do you want me to do for you? Now let's pause there for a second. Jesus often asks this. He doesn't just do for people what it seems to be obvious that they want. He asks them. They respond that they want their eyes to be opened, to which everybody in the crowd would have said, like, duh, like, what do you mean, what do these 2 blind guys want? They'd probably like to see Jesus. That's probably what they would like. But he still asks them. And it reminds me, and in some of the study that I was doing, I was listening to somebody talk about this passage earlier this week. And what this person was reflecting on also is that so often I bank on the fact that God knows what I want. I bank on the fact that God knows what I need. But there's something about Jesus here where he wants people to say it. Like he puts people on the spot. What do you want? It's the first thing that he says in John. The very first words that he says in the Gospel of John are, "What are you looking for?" And frankly, I want to say that since I heard that earlier this week that I've been doing more of that, but I don't know that I have yet, but I want to be. It's something that I need to spend time reflecting on, and not even reflecting on, just actually doing. She's saying to Jesus more like, "God, like this is what I desire. This is what I want, Lord. What do you want me to do for you?" They said to him, "Lord, let our eyes be opened." And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes. So at this point, he's moved towards them. He walks towards them, and he touches their eyes, and immediately they recovered their sight. followed him. They jump into this crowd as this crowd continues to march up to Jerusalem. Now getting into chapter 20 just a little bit. And when they drew near to Jerusalem, they came to Bethpage, to the Mount of Olives. It's hard to describe how close these places are. The Mount of Olives looks over the Kidron Valley, and then Jerusalem is just on the other side of that Kidron Valley. Even when you see it in pictures, it looks like it's a long way off. It's probably the best way to describe it. When we were there last January, we got dropped off at the top of the Mount of Olives. We took a picture there with Jerusalem behind us. Here's a picture of that. And then we walked down the Mount of Olives into the Garden of Gethsemane, into the church there. And at that point, we're at the bottom of the Kidron Valley. We didn't then walk back up into Jerusalem, but we very easily could have. These places are right next to each other. Now, and look, we're planning another trip to Israel, and we'll be releasing the dates on that soon. And I would love for you to consider going on that trip and see this place. So they're standing there on the Mount of Olives overlooking Jerusalem. I want to go ahead and get into 21 just a little bit to say that like this is the moment. Looking over Jerusalem, this is the moment where Jesus is about to walk in and begin doing things that trigger the response that will inevitably lead to him being crucified. What's the last thing that happens before he's looking out over Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives? These two blind men, they ask for their sight and he grants it. I think what Jesus is doing here and what Matthew is doing by making sure that these two things are connected right after each other in the way that Matthew is telling the story here, inspired by the Spirit. So what Jesus is doing, what Matthew is making sure that we see, is that right before they walk into Jerusalem, Jesus is making sure that it is crystal clear, that it is imperative that not just those two blind men, but the whole crowd walking with him, and us readers going with them also, it is imperative that our eyes be opened, that we be seeing. I think the imagery is beautiful. They go right from these men's eyes being open to standing there on the Mount of Olives, looking over Jerusalem, being able to see the temple right there, perhaps even being able to see the hill on which he'll be crucified. Just days later, probably being able to see that. Saying, you've got to be able to see. Have your eyes opened to what I am doing and what the Father is doing through me. Have your eyes open. And I think as disciples of Jesus today, it leaves us in a place where we ask the same question. Jesus, will you open my eyes? We make the same request. Open my eyes as we read these last 8 chapters of Matthew. If I've read them before, open my eyes in a new way to see things I haven't seen before. If I've never read them, open my eyes to see your truth here. But it's not just in the last 8 chapters of Matthew. In our lives in general, this was a prayer that I prayed right before hitting record on this. God, I want my eyes to be more fully open to how you're moving, to what you're doing. In the big things in life and the little things in life, Jesus is imploring those who are physically walking with him to have their eyes open. And I think that we are being implored to do the same thing. So friends, that's where I'll leave us for today. We've got more of Matthew to read this week, obviously. Keep up with your reading. We'll continue to have posts this week. But as we step into it, and as you step into the rest of your day today, are your eyes open? Maybe even better than that. It kind of implies that we're able to open our eyes. And there's only so much that we can do. Are you asking God to open your eyes? How about that? Are you asking God to open your eyes to how he's moving? God bless you, friends, and I'll see you later this week.